no. Like, this takes too much time or money or both to hope and pray that one day somebody finds you. And instead, it's a shift, and there's two sides of it. One is who you bring on. So the way we make this profitable to you from episode one and mean something to your business is bring on your ideal clients.
Okay, folks, welcome back to another episode here of Scale to Freedom, the place where you come to actually start to challenge your thinking, challenge your way of working to become more productive and get that elusive freedom that you've always been looking for. And today we have an absolute legend. This man has got so many things that he does, but at his core, at his heart is podcasting. Jason Croft is his name. So, Jason, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thanks so much. Happy to be here.
Mate, it is awesome to have you here, mate. You've spent a lot of time doing this media stuff, and we're going to get right in. I don't want to waste anybody's time. And folks, listen hard. There's going to be some absolute gold nuggets that's going to come out of this, I am sure. And so let's get into it. First one, mate, you've spent 34 years in the media before landing on the podcast and coaching and consulting specifically. What was the thing that kept you seeing that and kept that focus to get into this space?
Yeah, so really jumped into, the podcasting thing about a decade ago after being behind the camera for all those years you've mentioned now, from making movies to corporate events and traveling the world, doing reality shows and all the craziness out there. It's just been a blast. And about a decade ago, jumped in front of the camera as a marketing initiative for a production company I was doing sales and marketing for. And, I listened to podcasts, I listened to shows. I was like, we got the stuff. We've got a studio here. We got all the gear. I'd found the startup scene in Dallas, Texas, where I was. And I was like, man, what a great just community of potential clients for the production company. So let me start a show. I felt like an old, Mickey Rooney movie or something, like, let's put on a show in the barn, like invite them all in, come into the house. And, but we did. We had a 3-camera setup and a shoot. And I sat in the host chair because it was my crazy idea to go do this. And a few things happened. One was, we have ideal clients coming through the doors of the building to come be a part of this show. But also I got an immediate seat at the table in front of the startup community. And I was invited to host events and be a part of all that stuff. And then also I just fell in love with this podcasting thing. And then specifically as a business growing tool. And so doing that, and then over the years, specifically doing that for coaches and consultants, because they're my peeps. Like, those are dear friends of mine or are in that. And that's like, this is my world. And so many of them are amazing at what they do and who they help. And they're invisible, right? Nobody knows them beyond a handful of clients. And that's what I'm out here trying to remedy.
Mate, and it's so true. And so some of the best kept secrets in the world just need exposure. There are some amazing people, and I meet amazing people on the show all the time, but nobody knows about them. And this is I love the podcast scene. That's why I obviously do the Scale to Freedom podcast as a channel to try and help get some exposure for people. And I know that's what you do. So I guess the next question that really comes from that, you've got all this media experience, and as you said, you just sat down and you become the host. You had the charge of the seat, and you actually got something started. So with that in mind, you believe that podcasts should generate actual business from one episode, not in 6 months' time, not once the audience grows, but as soon as they walk through the door. What is it that you can actually tell our people who are maybe thinking about podcasting, or what is it that you do differently or think differently about when it comes to podcasts that can generate actual business straight away.
Yeah, it's that big shift going from this idea of, oh, it's content marketing. That's been the play for this kind of stuff, whether you're writing a newsletter, you're starting a podcast. It's let me do some stuff, put it out, and then one day, maybe a year from now, someone will be interested, or I'll have a big enough audience that people are interested. No. Like this takes too much time or money or both to hope and pray that one day somebody finds you. And instead, it's a shift, and there's two sides of it. One is who you bring on. So the way we make this profitable to you from episode one and mean something to your business is bring on your ideal clients. That's your guest, not somebody you met at a networking event or someone you think is cool to talk to. Bring on your ideal clients who you know you could help, or even think maybe. It's just the greatest cold outreach tool, but it's also the greatest just relationship building thing. The result is exactly what you would want from a first any conversation, right? Before you get to sales, before you get to anything. Hey, is this person a fit? How can I demonstrate a little bit of who I am? And you can do it in a way with podcasting that, the walls are down. People aren't like, all right, tell me what you do. It's you shining a spotlight on them, and you're getting into it. So that's one side. Bring on your ideal clients, bring on strategic partners, people who have an audience already of your ideal clients. Bring them onto the show. So it's one side is who you bring on, and the other side is how you structure your show. A lot of people still today are so worried to sell anything or to sound like they're selling anything or to promote themselves on the show. Like, this is your real estate. Again, back to you're spending time, you're spending money to do this. Have that intro every single time that, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is who I help, and this is why you would be a good fit or not. Right? Have that in the intro, the outro, in every single episode, so that even if that one person who's on your show listens back and then a handful of people they share it with, they know what you're doing. So you're starting to stack those things. So those are the two parts that really go into making this a different endeavor than just hoping and putting something out there.
I love that. It aligns with what we're talking, and we talked about this before we started the show today. How do we align? Now, we're here, your target market, my target market, coaches, consultants, speakers, perfect alignment there for us. And we can now go and look at this, and you will talk about, get your specific client, who's your target client, and or in my case, the JV partner. How can I actually look to this to get to know you more, to create something out of that? And the content that you get out of it is in some respects just a byproduct. It's great content. And what you're already saying, and folks, if you're not listening in, like, this is a strategy that is gaining more traction and can get you some dollars straight away. So don't be afraid to, you said it. Don't be afraid to try and say, hey, this is what you can buy or sell or whatever it might be. This is not a sell-a-thon. This is just putting it on the table and know what the next step is.
Oh, yeah. And I will add to that just a little bit is when you have this platform, I do it all the time too, is I just want to meet this person. Maybe somebody who wouldn't just, hop on a call if I was like, man, you want to talk for a minute? Like nobody's responding well to that. And instead, like, ooh, I want to talk to that person. So I'll go outside of because it's my show, I can do whatever the heck I want, right? So, be loose with it and play with it. But if you're going to go through this, like, having that strategy is key.
Absolutely. And that's the reality. Like, here you are, Jason, 34 years in the media. All right. That's a little bit of experience there to tap into in the space that I work in. So this was a relationship that was made in heaven for us. And they're the sort of relationships that you've got to be looking for. That's what's going to build content, and you look forward to it. We've been looking forward to this episode for a while now. So let's get into the next step. So you've built a methodology you call the market gravity. All right. What is it? And what is it? What is it about the podcast that's a fit for that?
Yeah. So market gravity, it came out of this evolution of visibility, right? For a couple of years, that's kind of what I would lead with. Like, this is why to do a podcast. This is why to put yourself out there in these different ways, is for visibility. But that was such a, not limiting, but that was such a beginner step. Like, yeah, visibility, cool. You can get visibility a lot of ways, right? Like, you can you can get arrested and get visibility. That's probably not the way you want to get it. So that's great as kind of a foundation, but how do you build upon that? And also, how do you do that? What do you do with that? So it's a five force framework, I call it, and so it both builds on one another, and there's an order to it, but they also all kind of work together. So you've got resonance. So how are you remembered? How do you resonate with somebody who, so that, oh, that's sticky. Oh, that's interesting. I remember, Kel, I remember what we talked about, because oh, that was interesting. So that's sort of the beginning, but it's also the core force that everything else revolves around, and it helps all the others. So the other four are going to visibility, because we need that. You don't want to do all this stuff alone in a closet and hope somebody walks by and sees you. You need that visibility out there. The second is authority. So having that type of content that automatically, oh, they know what they're talking about. And that comes in a couple of ways. One is the subject matter and the actual content that you're putting out there, right? Like, here's the how-to content, here's this. But also sometimes it is the medium, right? So there's automatically an authority to the host of a show, right? There's already just a little bit of that coming into it. So that's why one of the reasons podcasting is great for that. The fourth is momentum. So doing all this, and now get a system together for it. Keep it going. This builds, right? Yes, we want to create a show that benefits your business from episode one, but the beauty and the promise of that content marketing idea is still real, and that compounds over time. It's just, that's icing, right? Like, that'll be there. But let's build that momentum. More people come on the show, you get seen as that. They introduce you to other people. So it's a whole cycle that keeps going, kind of a flywheel, if you will. And then that last one is inevitability. That's the idea that sort of the tag of it all, right? Is to go from that unseen expert to the inevitable choice. Like, with all of these things working for you and pulling people into your orbit, then it becomes inevitable, right? If you can build, I love the category of one idea, the category pirates folks, and all of that. And really, that's a big core piece that I am out there, promoting as well, because it is, what's that uniqueness? And then build all of this stuff on top of that.
I love this, and you captured the one word that really stuck out for me was momentum. So many people, they do things, and that doesn't work, and quite often it could be literally the next episode or the next thing you do finally gets you across the line, but they stop too early, and they lose the momentum and stuff like that. So I guess that brings me to one of my key thieves around in the podcasting world. People don't stick around long enough. All right. So a lot of coaches, they start a podcast, they put out 20 or 30 different episodes, and they feel like nothing's happening yet. So what's your thoughts on what's really going wrong here?
Yeah, usually it is that initial strategy of why they started it in the first place. That's usually the killer. A couple of things happen. One is, first, that strategy, that not having it, not bringing on those ideal clients, and not saying, hey, this is a tool for meeting people
Yeah.
to fill my pipeline, to grow my sales, grow my business. So not doing that is one big reason because they're just out there scattershot, talking to whoever, hey, it's out there. This is fun. I enjoy it. But then 25 episodes in and nothing's really happening and it gets pushed down. And then the second thing that happens, even if you do start with that idea in mind of that strategy, what creeps in to all of us, this guy included, is we are why we want to see those numbers tick up. We want to see how many downloads. Like it doesn't really matter, but how many did I get? How many people clicked on the LinkedIn post that was a promotion of the episode? Oh, four. Mm. And that still weighs on. Still, you have to almost have a sticky note on your wall that says, forget the number, and really focus on that and keep that momentum going because all that stuff will happen over time. Those numbers just naturally will grow if you keep that consistency, and they don't matter because especially who we're talking to, who we work with all the time. Of course, we would love if all of a sudden tomorrow we got Joe Rogan numbers, right? I'm not going to pretend that wouldn't be amazing. It'd be a different animal for sure. Sure, that'd be awesome. But we don't need millions, right? We need four. We need four people who give a crap and actually respond to us to go, oh, this matter. And that changes our business, right? And that's the thing that's hard to keep in mind sometimes.
Absolutely. And like scale to freedom is exactly about that. How do you scale to freedom? Like you don't want to be out there spending hours and hours and hours just because I like to have a chat. Like it is like there's a purpose to this. And you said it right at the start there of it's got to be a strategy that you are meeting the goals of the strategy, not of the ego. And as I said, you said it. Would we love to be a Joe Rogan and have that sort of podcast following? Sure. Would I like to actually earn a buck out of this? Most definitely. And that's why most people are in business. They're starting something and their strategy has got to be the clear pathway. And I love it, love it, love it, love it. So if somebody's in your audience and you're thinking about starting a podcast, what's the first decision that absolutely matters? The one that determines, what's the business tool or what's the content strategy to produce? What's that first little step that you're talking about?
I bet everybody by this point can guess, but it's
that.
Yeah, it's the strategy, right? It's that why am I doing this in the first place? And that's honestly the first question I ask, even if someone's, knocking on the door saying, I want to hire you to do my podcast. Okay, cool. Why do you think you want a podcast, right? And being super clear on that and what that's going to take. So we've established that. We've talked about why that matters. But then getting into that ideal client, ideal audience, ideal guest, which to me is usually the same thing, right? So, and a lot of times it's not, just depending on who, that's usually my first question is who says yes to buying from you, right? Who in an organization, if you're selling B2B, it may make sense to have the CEO of that company on as a potential because they can sort of direct around, yeah, you should use so and so and do that. But sometimes you sell and the buyer in that organization who's paying you to bring you in is a director of HR or maybe it's the marketing director and they've got a lot of influence to that. So maybe that's what you build your show around. You name your show with that in mind. It's for those folks. It's those folks we're interviewing and talking to. And those are the folks who are going to say, yes, those are the people you want that relationship with. So those are the first things to think about, which usually isn't happening in the beginning of a pod. Like, I want to have a podcast and just talk to whoever, and I'm going to name it the name of my company or whatever. Uh, Having those things in line changes that direction because they inform everything. They inform what you name your show, who you're talking to, who you're putting this in front of, the calls to action in the show, all of that. So that's the key thing.
Absolutely. And look, this is scale to freedom. This is about what we're about here is to scale, to absolutely grow. And every ounce of energy you put in, you get a result for. And you're giving us a whole bunch of that today, Jason. I really, really appreciate it, mate. I love your energy, love your content. Just love what you're doing. And so I guess there's a lot of people out there going to be saying, well, how do I get in contact with Jason to find out that next step? What's next is what I like to call it. So tell us, how do we get in contact with you, Jason?
Absolutely. So I made a custom page just for you and your people. You can go to thejasoncroft.com/scale. And I've got a deep dive. Like, this is what I do for people. Deep dive, huge strategic launch and guest playbook there, and different modalities. There's a video to watch for that. There's if you just want to consume a big PDF, some people want that. I want pretty pictures. Show me, tell me, tell me that way. And so we've got all that there. So go to thejasoncroft.com/scale, and you can get all of that and be on your way there. And, contact info there if you want some help doing all this.
Fantastic, mate. And I think, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, we've got the Scale of Freedom podcast here, but we've also got a community where we actually do workshops and we do a little bit more deeper dive. So I'm going to invite you back along to do a workshop for us in there. So folks, if you're actually looking to increase the way in which you do things, you've got a scan code if you're watching this on video. We'll also have all the links and everything in there to the Scale to Freedom community. So you can go there next and just take the next step. It's a free community. We all engage in it. We do some workshops, hang out, give you some extra resources. And I'm sure Jason will be, I'll probably be able to convince him to come along and do a bit of a session for us there as well. And unpack this whole idea of understanding how do you build your strategy, and particularly that market gravity. I love that. I love that stuff. Jason, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, buddy.
Thank you so much, Cal. This has been an absolute blast.
Has been. And folks, that's the end of another episode here, Scale of Freedom. Please make sure you like and share this. Get it out into the community. Get it out to those people that you really love. And particularly if you're looking to do a podcast, get in contact with Jason or get in contact with us, and we'll put you in contact with Jason. So again, thank you, Jace. Thank you, folks, for listening in, and we'll catch up with you next time. Bye for now.